Hello and welcome to an eye on SG Diplomacy. In this episode, we will be interviewing His Excellency Mr. Peter Storer, Ambassador of the Republic of Austria to Singapore. Hello, His Excellency Mr. Peter Storer, Ambassador of the Republic of Austria to Singapore, and thanks a lot for this prestigious occasion.
Most welcome, it's a pleasure.
So this interview will be in three parts. So the first one will be your journey, the second one will be questions about Austria-Singapore relations, and the last one, the third one, will be just some general questions. But first of all, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. I'm glad to have you here, to have such a nice guest at the embassy.
Thank you, and also thank you for inviting me. So first of all, to begin with our first question, what is your journey throughout the diplomatic career?
Yeah, I've been in the diplomatic service for 33 years now, so quite a while. I started the foreign ministry in 1993. Before that, I attended the diplomatic academy in Vienna. Originally, I wanted to become a journalist, but then I switched and thought it might be interested to have a sort of international career. So 1993, I entered the foreign ministry, and then I spent 3 years in the headquarters in the foreign ministry. Then I went to Moscow, my first posting, till 2000. So I spent 4 years there. I was the second secretary of the embassy, and then the first secretary. And then from Moscow, I went to Geneva and did multilateral diplomacy. So I worked a lot in working groups of the United Nations in Geneva. There I spent 3 years, and then I went back to Vienna, to the foreign ministry again, and I was in the Asia department, where I was in charge of South and Southeast Asia. From there, I went to Canada, to Ottawa. I was the deputy head of mission in Ottawa, and also what we call the head or director of the Cultural Forum of Austria there. From Canada, I went to Tokyo as head of the Cultural Forum, Austrian Cultural Forum there for 4 years. And in 2015, we went back together with my wife to Austria, where I spent 10 years in different departments. And since May 2025, I'm ambassador here in Singapore.
So is Singapore the first place you've been ambassador in?
That's right, that's right.
So is there a specific thing that made you want to join diplomacy?
I was always interested in international politics, in politics in general, international affairs. Like to travel a lot, so I thought, why not combine it and make it a profession?
Of course.
And it worked well.
Well, great for you. And so right now you're ambassador to Singapore, and is there any specific reason you would think Singapore is a very interesting or special place in the world?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I mentioned that I was in Vienna in the Asia department and served in Japan. And during that time, I came to like Asia very much, as a region. And Singapore, I visited Singapore some 20 years ago the first time, and I was very fascinated by this small city-state because it's in a way a unique place. What Singapore has achieved over a relatively short period. So I was quite interested in that country, in the society, how they built this wealthy nation. So I'm thought Singapore is a great place to be and to work as an ambassador, and I'm glad that it worked out.
So, if you could be an ambassador to any country, do you know what that would be?
Japan would be nice.
Could you tell us why?
Yeah, it was already posted there, and I kind of fell in love with that country, with the culture, with the people. So to go back to Japan might be quite nice.
In your opinion, is Japan a very influential place in the world?
It is, yes. Yeah, it's in the region, in Asia, it's one of the big regional players. Economy is very powerful still, and the security policy is becoming also more and more important with the tensions in the region. So Japan is an important place, important country.
Okay. So now we are going to head into the second part of the questions about Singapore-Austria relations.
Good.
So in 2026, how would you describe the relationship between Austria and Singapore?
Yes, it's a almost historic year for Austria-Singapore relations. We celebrate this year 60 years of diplomatic relations, resumption of diplomatic relations. So we try to mark this special year with different activities. The relationship is very good, I would say. There are no problems, no issues between our two countries. The backbone of the relations, I would say, is economic relations. We have a trade balance which is roughly a billion Singapore dollars,
Wow.
which is not so bad for two small countries which are quite far apart. But of course, we want to have more. There are a lot of Austrian companies here, but we would like to bring more Singaporean investment to Austria, if that's possible.
So,
Please.
thank you. You mentioned there's trade.
Yes.
Can you tell us what trade for trade or services?
It's what we export to Singapore and what we import from Singapore is basically more or less the same products, interestingly. It's machinery, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, a little bit of agricultural products. So that's it basically. It's a mix of different products, more on the high end. So we try to do a little bit more with high tech with Singapore, but that's in the pipeline, so to speak.
So, do you think Singapore or even Austria benefits from these trades?
Oh, both benefit, of course. Yeah, that's the nice thing about trade, that both sides benefit. Normally, not always, but normally both sides benefit. And in our case, that's definitely so, yes. And both sides are interested to expand the trade relationship.
So, Austria is in Europe, is a landlocked country, and Singapore is a maritime country in Asia. Are there any challenges to that in terms of trade?
Not really with modern infrastructure. The distance, of course, is always an issue with certain products. But for most of the equipment or machinery, it's not a big issue. The only thing is, of course, the transport costs are a bit higher than when you are a neighboring country. But still, with modern infrastructure and transport means it's manageable.
Is the trade between Singapore and Austria free trade, or there's taxes?
No, there's a free trade agreement between Singapore and the European Union.
Okay.
Austria is part of the European Union. So there are very, very little trade barriers between us, which makes life easier for the trading companies.
So just a question, how does trade and taxes, so how does taxes actually affect trade? How are they a challenge?
Well, taxes make products more expensive. So if you want to export and you have high taxes on certain products, it's probably more difficult to find buyers because they say, well, that's for me a bit too expensive. If you have low taxes, like in Singapore, the taxes are generally lower than in Austria. Products are more affordable, and you can probably also have a slight advantage when you export these goods.
In Singapore,
Yes.
is it likely that we can find any Austrian products?
Yes, you find my colleague who is doing the commercial relations, he used to say Austrian products are not so much on the outside, but more on the inside. So you have, in many products, you have components which are from Austria. But just to give you examples, you maybe know Red Bull,
Yes.
which is an Austrian company. So the drinks from Red Bull, you can buy them here. They're from Austria. You have jewelry, a famous jewelry company from Austria is called Swarovski. They're also selling their products here. We have, for example, motorcycles, which are internationally well known. They are called KTM. You can also buy them here.
So now we're going to head into the last part of questions, part 3, which are general questions. So first of all, can you tell us what is an ambassador's role in helping global diplomacy?
Yeah, I have to be a bit more humble. My aim is not to really influence global diplomacy. That would be asking too much, probably. But I'm happy if I can do something about relations between Singapore and Austria, to bring people together who, from Austria and from Singapore, who would find it interesting to cooperate, be it in the economic side, be it in cultural side, political dimension is of course important. So it's a kind of a bridge building, or if you want to call it a matchmaking between Austria and Singapore. Find the right people who like each other, who can do something together. Explain a little bit about Austria here in Singapore, what Austria stands for. And maybe also to explain in Austria a little bit what Singapore is all about. If I can achieve a little bit of that, then I'm a happy man.
Of course. And also, what is your average day? Or even, is there an average day?
Well, the nice thing about my job is that there's practically no average day. It's so diverse. Just to give you an example, last Friday I had a meeting with the Singaporean foreign minister, who invited me for a courtesy call. This week we had, just before you came, we had an internal discussion, a debate to prepare for a delegation from Austria coming. We prepare right now activities that we can do for 60 years anniversary. We had, for example, on the 1st of January, we had the live broadcasting of the annual Vienna Philharmonic's New Year's concert here in Singapore that we attended, my wife and I. So very, very diverse, which I like very much. Yeah. You have to do with all kinds of people, very, very different. Their professional background, their personality. So this makes it quite interesting.
So, for example, when there's a trade agreement, does that pass by you?
Trade agreements, in the European Union, we have the system that the trade agreements are negotiated by an institution which is called European Commission. I don't know whether you heard about it. So they are in charge of trade relations and negotiating trade agreements with third countries, for example, Singapore. They negotiated a free trade agreement with Singapore, and this was in Brussels. Normally, this is coordinated among the member states of the EU. So Austria is, if there are preparations for these negotiations, Austria says, for example, well, this aspect is important for us. Can you make sure that in the negotiations you take care of this issue? That's roughly speaking a little bit the procedure.
So to go back to what you said before, you said the Austrian embassy in Singapore also takes charge of the culture.
Yes.
So is there a place in Singapore where we can find Austrian culture?
Yes. If you go to a concert of the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, they very often play Austrian music by Austrian composers. And currently the music director, the conductor of the orchestra is Austrian. There are Austrian musicians in the orchestra, so it has quite an Austrian touch. That's just one example. Yeah. We do organize cultural events on a regular basis. We plan a film festival this year with Austrian movies. So yes, to cut it short, there is Austrian culture to be seen here in Singapore.
So to propose cultural ideas, can you propose them or does it have to pass by the Austrian Chancellor?
No, that's something that we normally can do ourselves. We get in touch with be it Austrian cultural institutions like museums or orchestras or a film society, and we tell them, don't you want to do something in Singapore? We support you. If we have a little bit of money, we can support you financially. So that's a little bit how it works. So we are quite autonomous as long as we have enough money for it to finance it.
So this may seem like a little personal question, but what is your favorite place in Singapore?
Oh, there are many. There are many, I guess. I like the Art Science Museum very much as a building and the concept of the museum. I like the Esplanade, the concert hall, very much from outside and from inside. What I very much like is, the shop houses in Singapore.
Yes.
These more traditional areas, because it reminds me of how Singapore might have looked some 50 or 60 years ago. So there are a lot of interesting places here. Nature is beautiful, botanic garden.
So I'm also going to talk again about a question I had asked before. So now, how do you think the future of Singapore and Austrian relations should be like?
Yeah, I hope that we can increase cooperation in various areas. Economic cooperation, as I said, it would be nice if we can convince some Singaporean companies to invest in Austria. This is a little bit, that there could be more activities, there could be more presence of Singapore in Austria. What I also would like to do is to bring universities a bit closer together, Singaporean and Austrian, to have exchange of students and to support, enhance cultural exchange. These three pillars, I would say. And if we are lucky, we can have. We can motivate politicians from both countries, members of government, to visit each other. That's also an important factor because it's like an incentive. It brings new dynamics into relations.
So what does what you just said, a summit, for example, when leaders come together?
Yeah, or ministerial meetings. That would be something. We plan. Towards the end of the year, a big economic conference where we hope that maybe also ministers might attend.
So
These kind of things.
Would that help relations?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very important to have that.
And also by having banks invest, does that also raise benefits for both sides or only one side?
Yes. We have only one Austrian bank present here in Singapore. But banks are important. The good thing is you don't need Austrian or necessarily Singaporean banks to do that. There are so many other banks here in Singapore, at least international banks. Of course, that's they are facilitating economic activities. They're important players. Yes.
So this is going to be our last question for today. What advice or even message would you like to give to the new generation or just people entering the world of diplomacy?
Yeah, I would say, listen, these are rather difficult times for diplomacy. The international order is under some strain. I don't explain why, everybody knows, if everybody who follows media and news. But I think that it's more important than ever to have good diplomacy, to be able to communicate with each other, with other countries, with other cultures, to try to avoid some misunderstandings or to try to understand each other better. This is basically what diplomacy is about. If you have a problem or a mutual problem with somebody or a country, talk about it, be honest, be nice, and try to solve it. This is diplomacy, not much more.
Okay, so thanks again for the time you gave me today and responding to all my questions.
Thank you for the excellent questions. It was nice talking to you.
Okay, well, goodbye, and I hope to see you maybe again one day.
Yeah, would be great. You would make a good diplomat or a good journalist.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.